Good morning everyone, it's Tuesday morning. I'm doing another one of these videos. I've had a phone call from my mum over the weekend. She's described these videos as depressing. Great. So I'm going to try and be a little bit more upbeat, particularly as we're onto a subject I actually know something about. I'll get to that in a minute. There was no video yesterday on account of I was busy getting my life in order and dodging the police on the way to the laundrette, because that's my life now. Anyway, we're going on to Julian's question, which is, what is the world's largest train? Well, that's dead simple. For passenger trains, it's the world's longest train is the Garn, operating in the Adelaide-Darwin Railway in Australia, and comes in at 1,096 metres in length. For freight trains, the Canadian National Railway has and does run double-stack container trains up to 4.2 kilometres long. Job done. Nice quick video. Nice. Yeah, nice. That was pretty easy. Wait, that's not what you're after, is it? You're expecting juggernauts of the railway, behemoths of steel, hearts of fire, belching smoke and breathing steam. Yes, I'm reading that off my notes. Yeah, it's not very good. Anyway, this is going to be a multi-part video. I'm sorry, you kind of opened up a bag of weasels with this one, Julian. Mostly because I'm going to be pedantic about it. First point of the question is, what is the world's largest train? Well, I think to make a point of this, it's down to the terminology of the railway. What is a train? Okay, I have a pictorial example of something for you here. What is this? I'll give you a few seconds. What is it? Now, if you said steam train, you are, of course, completely and utterly wrong. That is a steam locomotive. A train only becomes a train when you basically put carriages or wagons behind it. A collection of these in the UK is referred to as a rake, and in the US it's referred to as a string. Let me just have a quick look at my notes, which is stuck in the way, stuck behind a bottle of pop that I'm using to prop up my phone. Bear with me, caller. Yeah, okay. So, in this case with the locomotive, we have the engine at the front, and at this bit at the back is called the tender for a steam locomotive. We'll get to more on that in a moment. Basically, the tender contains the coal and the water that helps run the train in this instance. Incidentally, this is a very nice book bought for me for my birthday a while back, which might be completely the wrong way round thanks to the camera. That was bought for me by Jackie Hill some years ago, and it's a great and useful piece of kit that I've got. You're not interested. Anyway. So yeah, a train generally is a train when it's got wagons behind it. The term train actually is derived from Latin via Old French. I'm not going to pronounce the Old French. The Latin is the word trahir, which I believe means to pull or to draw. Now that's in the traditional sense. In reality, modern parlance has basically sort of considered trains as being a locomotive on its own or a locomotive of wagons, and in fact the Railway Act 1993 has in fact put that into law. That is the definition of a train. It is either pulling wagons or it's not. It's still a train. But I'm going to ignore that because I think I'm going to basically stick to my guns on this one, and we start dealing with the issue. So, what is the world's largest train? Let's talk about that as in the way of constraints. It's if you're just talking a locomotive with a load of wagons behind it, and it's the biggest in the world, my previous two answers work. They are basically ridiculously long trains. I mean, 4.2 kilometres. That just staggers me. But if you want to talk about how big a locomotive itself is, what is the world's largest locomotive? Again, we've got to think about this in more detail. Are we talking largest mass, i.e. its tonnage, or its dimensional size? And to really sort of cut this down a bit more, we also need to consider gauge. A train or locomotive designed for wide gauge is going to be naturally larger than a train or locomotive designed for standard gauge, which is naturally going to be larger than a train or locomotive on narrow gauge. I'm going to talk about gauging probably in my next video, because you're not getting the answers today. I'm going to fart on a bit more about generally this subject. We also need to consider the difference. Are we talking about the age of steam or modern locomotives? Because there is a difference. The technologies at the time make a very big difference as to how big you could build these things. So it's going to be a fairly short one. I think I've covered all my points so far today. To be honest, I thought I'd waffle on a bit more, but I've not. Makes a change. So I'm not going to cover what is the largest train in the world this morning. I'm basically going to talk more about different types of locomotives, along with any miscellany and other pedantry I will see fit to basically fit into the next video, and probably break it down a little bit more over the next few days. Yeah, pretty much done. Wow. So yeah, hopefully that's going to be a bit more interesting when I start talking a bit more about the different locomotives, and then start talking about the actual what are the largest, because I think splitting it down into classes would be a good idea, because we could just turn around, this is the biggest, heaviest locomotive in the world, and that's great, but does it actually compare with other locomotives? Because there's quite a world of difference out there for them. So hopefully you found this video informative, interesting, or at least an introduction to something that might be more interesting, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye.